Good morning, church. My name is Rio, and the Bible reading for this Good Friday service is taken from the Gospel of Jesus according to Matthew, chapter 27, verses 45 to 56, under the title, The Death of Jesus. Verse 45. From noon until 3 in the afternoon, darkness came over all the land. About 3 in the afternoon, Jesus cried out in a loud voice, "Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani," which means, my God, why have you forsaken me?" When some of those standing there heard this, they said, "He's calling Elijah." Immediately, one of them ran and got a sponge. He filled it with wine, vinegar, put it on a staff, and offered it to Jesus to drink. The rest said, "Now leave him alone. Let's see if Elijah comes to save him." And when Jesus had cried out again in a loud voice, he gave up his spirit. At that moment, the curtain of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom. The earth shook, the rocks split, and the tombs broke open. The bodies of many holy people who had died were raised to life. They came out of their tombs after Jesus' resurrection and went into the holy city and appeared to many people. When the centurion and those with him who were guarding Jesus saw the earthquake and all that had happened, they were terrified and exclaimed, "Surely he was the Son of God." Many women were there, watching from a distance. They had followed Jesus from Galilee to care for his needs. Among them were Mary Magdalene, Mary, the mother of James and Joseph, and the mother of Zebedee's sons. And this is the word of God.
Good morning. We call it Good Friday. But if you'd received the Saturday version of the Jerusalem Times 33 AD, you would have read a different story. Let me quote. "The drama of the execution of Jesus has reached into the religious centre of the nation. The duty priests in the Holy Temple have reported major vandalism in the innermost court of the temple. They've reported that the curtain separating the Holy of Holies has been torn apart. It's been ripped open from top to bottom. A temple spokesman called this a vicious attack on our long-held religious traditions. No one, he said, no one can enter into God's presence and live except the high priest with the annual sacrificial offering. How this vandalism took place, attacking the very heart of our religious practices, is being looked into. It's a mystery, the mystery of the torn curtain, a whodunit. Agatha Christie would say that in any whodunit there are 6 questions to ask. The question of what, when, where did it take place, how, who, why, and they're good questions to ask. So with the torn curtain in the very heart of the temple, the very heart of the temple, what happened? Let's start with the curtain itself. The curtain was a huge, thick curtain. It was bigger than you could imagine. It stretched almost 60 feet from the floor to the ceiling of the temple. It was made of heavy red and scarlet material. It was thick through, this thick. It was symbolic, really, of the separation between the Holy of Holies, where God's presence was symbolically there. It was an indication of, a symbol of the difference between the separation between that and the courts of the people. There was no going through. It dated back to the ancient laws of Moses, when the curtain was a physical reminder of that great separation between God and his people. You see, the separation came about this way. We were made in the image of God, it's true. We were made for fellowship with God. We were made to be friends with God, but that is long past. We are far removed from the presence and from the holiness of God. I know it, you know it, I know it about you, and you know it about me. We are not the people that God first created. If ever we should find ourselves face to face with the God of holiness, or the God of justice, or the God of purity, we would have, frankly, no defence. We would have nothing to say. So the temple curtain was actually a safeguard for the people. It was a mercy extended to us and to all who went to the temple seeking God. There was one exception, though, and that was the high priest. The exception was that the high priest, once a year, following the law of Moses, would enter in behind the curtain to pay for sins, his own and for ours. It was a ritual that he repeated every year because it had no permanent effect, but it was a reminder of something coming. It was a pointing forward that there was something greater coming, as the prophet Isaiah 53 had foretold, that one day God would provide a full and perfect sacrifice to cover sins, the sins of the world. The ritual would no longer need to be repeated then. So, following Agatha Christie, how did this all happen? Who done it? The duty priests would have given a report. There were always priests on duty in the temple, and they reported that the curtain had been torn apart. There was no word from them about who'd done it or what they'd seen in terms of human activity. They couldn't say how it happened. Clearly, it couldn't have been a human job. I mean, the temple curtain was just too big and too strong for human hands or human intervention. So, how did it happen and who did it? The clue is in the report from top to bottom. The priests would have reported the curtain was torn from top to bottom. Their question was, and our question is, who in the world could reach down and grab that curtain from the top and tear it open? Who would have enough purpose and enough strength and power to tear away the barrier between God and people? Who could open the way to God? Who could open the way to forgiveness and acceptance with God? And the answer plainly is there was only one who could do that. Let's look for another clue. When did it happen? The curtain was ripped open at the very moment that Jesus died on the cross. They reported that as that happened, they had the hour, as that happened, this happened. The relationship between the death of Jesus and the torn curtain is the mystery. Well, maybe there's a clue there. Was it a coincidence? Or was there something much more profound happening here? The fact is, looking back about what it all means, the curtain shielded people from God. They kept us safe from the authority and the power and the purity and the justice of God. It was what shielded us, but it was only by going through the curtain that forgiveness and acceptance and friendship with God could happen, and that would require a perfect sacrifice. Jesus had already taught his disciples that his death would be that sacrifice. They hadn't understood, but he had told them that he was giving his life for them and for disciples who would follow on. He was the way. He had already told his disciples he alone was the one who could open the curtain, could remove the barrier between God and people to bring peace with God. When we turn to the book of Hebrews in the New Testament, Hebrews chapters 9 and 10, the writer to Hebrews picks up this point. He says, Jesus offered himself the perfect sacrifice for all people in all time, and by his death he opened a new and life-giving way through the curtain into the most holy place, from Hebrews. This was the opening of the way to God. Now, the symbolism is actually just too clear to miss. It's highly symbolic, yes. Jesus' death, though, pays for sin. It covers your sin and mine forever. So whatever you have been carrying through the years or the months or the days, whatever you've been carrying, this is telling us that you can be free. You can be free. You can hand it over to Jesus on the cross, and it is dealt with. It is done. It is forgiven. Now, what would be the motive for this? Why would God do this sort of thing? Why would Jesus willingly, even with difficulty, terrible difficulty, why would Jesus give his life? Why would he sacrifice himself in such agony and pain to tear the curtain open, the way between God and us? And the best way that I can think to explain that is with John chapter 3, verse 16 and 17, the best known verses in the Bible. I want to invite you, if you would like, to read it with me. Together we read. This is how God loved the world. He gave his one and only Son, so that everyone who believes in him will not perish, but have eternal life. God sent his Son into the world not to judge the world, but to save the world through him. Why? What was God's motive? It was love. Now, if this is all new to you, if this is new stuff that you are relatively unfamiliar with, perhaps you're visiting from, well, because a friend invited you, or perhaps that's because relatives have called you and you've said, okay, I'll come, or perhaps you're just quietly seeking after a relationship with God. You know that there's something missing and you're after that. I want to say that the separation between you and God, the curtain has been torn apart. You can step forward. You can step into the gap, into the very presence of the living God, not fearfully. He's not there to judge and smash you down. He is there to pick you up, to forgive. And if you step forward trusting and accepting his forgiveness, it's there for you. God, in the cross, in the tearing open of the temple symbolically, God is offering a new start and a new life. So if this is new to you, today would be a great day to make a decision, a step forward in this very way. But if you're an old hand here, or perhaps an old hand from your church and you're just coming to visit with us, and it's lovely to see you, if that's the way it is, perhaps you're marvelling that God cares for us, that he cares enough to open the way in the way that he did on that Good Friday. Or maybe you're thanking him for the outrageous kindness and love that he's shown. Maybe you're overcome by the lengths that God has gone to, that Jesus has gone to open the way for us, and you're full of thanks. Or maybe you're searching for a way to share this good news with your friend or your neighbour or your family. Maybe. Whatever it is, I want to say that the book of Hebrews, again, encourages us to step forward. So Hebrews says, since we have a great high priest, Jesus, who rules over God's house, let us go right into the presence of God through the curtain with sincere hearts, fully trusting him because he has made us clean. Dear friends, this is a Good Friday.